Well, cross that line past the no trespass sign.
Welcome back to Vibe Podcast Conspiracy Club. Today we're discussing whether a Remington Accelerator rifle bullet was used by the Kirk killer, a topic researched for us by David Morgan. I'm joined by Charles and Angela.
Hello everyone, Charles here. I'm a gun and bullet expert, particularly fascinated by the history and mechanics of both old and specialized ammunition. Always a pleasure to unpack the details of these interesting pieces of engineering.
And I'm Angela, a crime scene investigator. My role is to analyze what's left behind, connecting the dots of physical evidence. When we're talking about specific ammunition, I'm thinking about what distinctive marks or residues it would leave at a scene.
Excellent. So, Charles, we're looking at a product listing for Remington Express ammunition, specifically a 3006 Springfield Accelerator, 55-grain pointed soft point. From your expert perspective, what immediately jumps out about this particular round?
Well, Alice, several things. First, the caliber, 3006 Springfield. That's a very common, powerful hunting cartridge. But then you see the bullet weight, 55 grains. That's exceptionally light for a 3006. Most 3006 bullets range from 150 to 180 grains, sometimes heavier. A 55-grain bullet in a 3006 casing immediately tells me this is an accelerator round, which means it uses a sabot.
And that word, sabot or sabot, is critical for me. For our listeners, Charles, could you briefly explain what a sabot is in this context?
Certainly, Angela. A sabot is a French word for shoe. In ammunition, it's a lightweight, usually plastic sleeve that holds a smaller diameter bullet within a larger caliber cartridge case. So, for this 3006 accelerator, you have a .22 caliber bullet encased in a plastic sabot, which then fits into the 3006 casing. When fired, the sabot propels the smaller bullet down the barrel, then separates and falls away shortly after leaving the muzzle.
So, the 3006 casing is actually firing a .22 caliber projectile, just at an incredibly high speed.
Exactly, and that's the next striking detail. The muzzle velocity is listed at 4,080 feet per second, or FPS. That's incredibly fast, rivaling or even exceeding the velocity of many dedicated .223 Remington or 5.56 NATO rounds, but from a much larger cartridge. The idea was to give hunters a flatter trajectory for varmint hunting with their existing high-power rifles.
This is where my ears really perk up. If an accelerator round was used in the Kirk killing, that sabot is a crucial piece of evidence. Since it separates from the bullet just after exiting the barrel, it would typically be found in the immediate vicinity of the firing position, maybe within 20 or 30 yards. For an investigator, finding a white plastic sabot would be a definitive clue that this very specific type of ammunition was used.
And the fact that it's a 55-grain bullet, despite the high velocity, means its terminal ballistics would be quite different from a standard, heavier 3006 round. A lighter, faster bullet often fragments more violently upon impact, especially at these velocities.
Absolutely. That high velocity and lightweight could mean a very destructive wound profile, with significant hydrostatic shock. We might be looking for extensive fragmentation, which could make bullet recovery challenging, or conversely, very specific and identifiable fragments. But the presence of that sabot, or the distinct lack of a full-size .30 caliber bullet from a 3006 weapon, would be the key indicators.
And the product listing also mentions it's discontinued. Does that add another layer of complexity for investigators or for someone trying to acquire these?
It does. Being discontinued means they're not readily available on store shelves anymore. Anyone possessing them would likely have bought them years ago, or perhaps even from an elderly relative. They were a niche product, and not everyone gravitated towards them, so they're relatively rare compared to standard ammunition.
From a forensic standpoint, it indicates a deliberate choice of bullet, or perhaps to achieve a specific effect, or simply because it's what they had with their old gun they inherited. But finding that plastic sabot would provide a very strong link to this specific type of ammunition.
So, the theory regarding the Kirk killer and the Remington Accelerator really hinges on the unique characteristics of this round. Primarily that plastic sabot and its distinctive ballistic performance.
Without a doubt, The evidence at the scene would have to align with the use of such a specialized round for that theory to hold water.
This has been incredibly insightful. That's all for today. A big thank you to our guest
cross that
researcher,
line
David
past the
Morgan, for
no
providing our
trespass
topic.
sign.
I'm your host,
Dust
Alice.
kicking up, moon hanging fine. Heard a hum from the canyon low. Felt a spotlight shine like it wanted to know. Down in Area 51 where the secrets sleep, they say the truth ain't ours to keep. Silver ships and government lies, blink once and you're gone from sight. Yeah, out in the desert where the world comes undone, I saw a light.